1.72 million. That is how many American home sales never happened between 2022 and 2024, and that estimate comes from the government's own housing regulator. At today's pace, the entire American resale market moves about 4 million homes a year. So the missing sales are worth roughly 5 months of the whole market. Erased, not by a crash, not by a recession. Demand did not disappear, and the houses did not burn down. They are still standing, still lived in, still worth more than they were 5 years ago. What stopped was the moving. And the reason is a number printed on a piece of paper that almost half the country is holding and cannot give away. Start where Poland actually started. In 1990, consumer prices in Poland rose 568%. Not 5.6, 568. The shelves were empty. The money in people's pockets was evaporating while they held it. And the country owed foreign governments and foreign banks more than it could plausibly repay. The next year, 1991, the economy contracted 7%. The worst single year in Poland's modern record. That is the whole. Everything that follows is climbing out of it. 2 things made the climb possible, and only one of them gets talked about. The famous one first. On the 1st of January, 1990, Poland changed system overnight, the Balcerowicz Plan. Prices were freed, the currency was made convertible, subsidies were cut, shock therapy, and the shock was real. That 7% collapse was the bill for it. The second thing almost never makes the story, and it may have mattered more. Poland's creditors wrote off half of what it owed them. In April 1991, the Paris Club, the government's Poland was in debt, agreed to cut the value of that official debt by 50%. 3 years later, in September 1994, around 450 commercial banks did roughly the same, taking about 49% off $14 billion of bank debt. Poland did not only reform, it was forgiven. Very few countries get both. And then the strange part starts. From 1992, Poland's economy grew and kept growing. 1995, 7.9%. 2007, 6.8. 2018, 6.3. Through the dot-com bust. Through the crisis that shrank Germany, its largest customer, by 5.5%. Through the euro crisis that pulled Italy down again in 2012. 28 consecutive years without a single contraction, 1992 to 2019. Only a global pandemic ended it, and even then gently, -2% in 2020, and straight back to growing. This is not a boom. Booms are short and they're loud. This is the rarer thing, a country that simply never stopped. 2009 is where the streak stops being a statistic and starts being strange. The financial crisis hit Europe like a wall. Germany's economy shrank 5.5% in 1 year. Italy, 5.3%. Britain, 4.6%. The European Union as a whole contracted more than 4%. And Poland grew. The World Bank puts Polish growth that year at 2.6%. Eurostat, on a slightly different vintage of the same accounts, at 1.7%. Argue about the decimal if you want. Every other number on this chart has a minus sign in front of it. Poland's does not. It was the only member state of the European Union that grew at all that year. So how? 3 shock absorbers, and none of them is genius. 1. Poland kept its own money. It never joined the euro. When the crisis hit, the zloty was allowed to fall, roughly 30 to 40% against the euro between late 2008 and early 2009. Overnight, everything Poland made went on sale to the rest of Europe. That is, the absorber Greece did not have, and inside the euro, could not build. 2. Size. Poland is 36 million people who mostly buy from each other. In 2009, household spending was about 62% of the entire economy. When world trade froze, most of Poland's economy was not on the boat. 3. It had a fire extinguisher it never had to use. In May 2009, the International Monetary Fund opened a $20.6 billion credit line for Poland. available on demand. Poland never drew a single dollar of it, knowing there was the whole point. There's a fourth thing, and it is the largest of all of them. On the 1st of May, 2004, Poland joined the European Union. What that did to Polish trade is visible from orbit. In 1995, exports were 23% of Poland's economy. By 2012, 44%. By 2022, 62%. Poland stopped being a country that occasionally sold things abroad and became a piece of somebody else's supply chain. Car parts, furniture, batteries, buses, food, and increasingly software and services. And the money moved the other way too. Between 2004 and 2023, gross transfers from the European Union budget to Poland came to roughly 245 billion euros. Roads, rail, water treatment, universities. Poland did not outcompete Western Europe. It plugged into it. Now, put 34 years of that together. This is income per person adjusted for what money actually buys locally. In 1990, the average Pole had about $12,800 a year on this measure. Portugal had $27,200. Greece, $26,900. Poland was under half of either. Now watch the lines. Poland passes Greece in 2015. Poland passes Portugal in 2020 and does not give it back. By 2024, Poland is at about 45,150, Portugal at about 42,200, Greece at about 37,500. Poland's income per person grew 3.5 times over. Greek income per person rose 39% in the same 34 years. And Greece is not a poor country. It is a country that stopped. On the European Union's own preferred yardstick, purchasing power standards, Poland and Portugal now sit level with each other, at about 4/5 of the EU average, with Greece well behind both. And here is the part that does not fit on a poster. 28 years of growth did not mean 28 years of anybody feeling richer. Look at unemployment. In 2002, a full decade into the growth streak, 1 in 5 Polish workers had no job, 20.2%. It was still above 17% in 2005. So for the first 15 years of the miracle, the charts went up while 1/5 of the workforce sat at home. What finally broke, it was not the growth rate. It was the border. Poland joined the European Union in 2004 and the labor markets opened. Unemployment fell from 17.6% to 7.1% in 4 years. Part of that was new jobs at home. Part of it was Poles taking jobs in Britain, Ireland, and Germany because now they could. Today, Polish unemployment is 2.8%, a seventh of what it was in 2002. The growth was real from 1992. It reached ordinary people about 12 years late. So, is the machine still running? Not the way it was. 2020 ended the streak, -2%. Then inflation came back hard, 14.4% in 2022, 11.5% in 2023, the worst since the 1990s. And in 2023, the economy stalled outright. Growth of 0.2% for the whole year, with 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. On the standard definition, 2 consecutive quarters of falling output, Poland was technically in recession for the second time in 4 years. The debt picture is turning too. Government debt was 45% of the economy in 2019. It is 55% now, and the International Monetary Fund's own projection puts it above 75% by 2030. And the 2 engines are both running down at once. Cheap labor is no longer cheap, which was the entire point of the exercise. And the European transfers shrink as the country stops being poor. So here is what this actually is. America did not lose its houses. The stock is intact. Every one of those homes is still standing and on paper worth more than ever. What broke is the flow, the rate at which people move through them. The typical American homeowner now stays put for 12 years. In 2005, it was 6.5. The share of Americans who moved in a year has fallen from 20.2% in 1948 to 8.7% in 2022. And in a 2025 survey, 54% of homeowners said There is no mortgage rate at all that would make them comfortable selling this year. Not a high rate, any rate. That is not a market clearing slowly. That is a market that has stopped being a market and turned into an inventory of people staying where they are. The handcuffs do not get cut. They corrode. Every year, some of those cheap mortgages end anyway. A death, a divorce, a job 3 states away, a family that simply outgrows the house. Life does not check your interest rate. And every year, the gap narrows a little from the other side, as the market rate drifts down toward the rate people are holding. That is the whole exit. Not a crash, just arithmetic in time. But it is worth being precise about what happened here, because it will happen again somewhere else. A country handed out an extraordinary 30-year gift at the bottom of a rate cycle.